Hello and welcome to another episode of Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. And what I'm going to do today is open up the discussions a little bit for you to get to know Kate Montgomery a little bit better. So we've been doing some trilogies as well as we have another series that we're just recording, but we realized just to talk about some of her background and the books that she's written, that might be really valuable for you understanding who you're listening to and the experience that Kate brings to the conversation. So Kate, welcome to this little mini session that we're going to do. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate this.
Now, we want everybody to have a healing session while they're listening, and I know you'll be talking about some of the things that's in your book, but let's start with what tea did you pack today for this conversation?
I brought rose hips and hibiscus,
Ooh.
and it is for Christmas too. So it has a red pink tinge to it. I don't know if the camera, but in my room it's showing pink, and it's about. I want to say the little story that I read on it was in Viking time, when they would maraud and go and do that, rose petals were attached to their ships because they were looking for love and who they were going to capture, women. And so, but now we use rose petals and hibiscus for soothing and calming and helping our heart.
Mhm.
So, a calming love potion.
I love it. I love it. And when we're thinking about talking about your book today, then also the heart of the power that the book brings forward. So I'm going to introduce you to Apple Passion. So I'm going to be on the heart center as well. I've got a little snowman hiding inside mine. And I'm going to just bring cinnamon to the conversation, which is about the spark for life and courage. And cinnamon is something that's for warmth and circulation and bringing out our passion. And so, as we go into some of the ways that sometimes our passion gets us in trouble because we have repetitive movement patterns, then this will be a great way for you to think about how tea might be able to support all of the knowledge coming from what you're going to share in your book. So, cheers, Kate. Thank you
Cheers.
for joining me. Mm.
That's good.
All right. And for those people that are listening, we hope that you've picked a tea for yourself or a favorite beverage, or you've infused the water with the things we've just introduced with the hibiscus and the rosehip and the cinnamon. Okay, Kate, let's dive into this book because I have this book and it is on my bookshelf. And I'm so excited to be able to speak to an author about why they put a book together. So, this is End Your Carpal Tunnel Pain Without Surgery. I have an old copy because you were showing me your new copy.
This
So, would you like to share a little bit about what you changed about the focus of the book to begin with for the covers?
When I decided, which I thought I'd never do, because it's quite a journey to go and rewrite something, um, I had been, as I had said earlier to you, I had been at a conference, and one of the things is there were a bunch of children there for their conference, and I watched them sitting on a stairway, um, all bent over with thumbs, going crazy on their phones, and then another was sitting over in a corner on a computer and one was on an iPad. And I sat there and I thought, repetitive strain. And I'm going, here's a little generation of children who don't even understand what RSI is, repetitive strain, and the consequences for the future. So then I sat down one day and started writing again. And I found pictures that showed children doing this for the book. And so I dedicated this copy to children. And within the book, there are steps that you don't do and the ones that are for them to do so that they can take care of themselves. So that was the reason for writing the book, was because I really wanted to address that.
And I'm just thinking about parents right now. They're not thinking about that repetitive piece. One is we want them to be fluent in talking digital. Two, we give them their limited time, but we're not thinking about what is the repercussions of the time they did spend on those apparatuses. And and what is that going to mean for the activities they're going to choose to do next? Which muscles are working and which ones aren't, or how is that arm functioning as you go? Okay, can you share a little bit then of the background of the main content of the book?
Well, let's start with why I wrote it in the first place.
Mm,
Um, I was working in San Diego as a sports massage therapist, and I was working with athletes that were using their hands specifically for the type of sport, more so like javelin and I can't think of all the things, but anything baseball and anything that had to do with the arms. Okay, and so I started hearing about repetitive because they're doing something over and over again with maybe one side of the body. And so I said, well, this is interesting. And then, of course, in the early 90s, carpal tunnel became the disease of the
mhm.
generation of that decade. So starting in the 90s, this is when you start hearing about it. So it was insane, really. Every doctor in the world was doing carpal tunnel surgery. And I remember saying, why? Why are you doing it? It's a muscular skeletal problem. Now, they do not say that. They labeled it genetic. And I almost had a fit when I heard that one because it's not genetic. And the Orthopedic Association in 2007 had a meeting in San Diego, and I was in Indiana at the time, and I got a message over the AP wire, and they said, well, they just labeled it genetic. And I started laughing because it's like you're saying that every musculoskeletal disorder is going to be genetic because that's basically what you're doing. You're saying that. And so I rebutted that a lot. And so when you really understand what repetitive strain injury is, it is a muscle, nerve, bone alignment issue. It's an overworking of a muscle tendon attached to the bone that then pulls the joint out of alignment, which then compresses the nerve, which then gives you pain. So, for instance, in carpal tunnel, everything starts up here in the neck, goes through the shoulder, down the elbow into the wrist and hand. And, if you align yourself, say you sit up here and you haven't had any neck problems or shoulder issues, and, most people have, but we're just, I found that the elbow joint was the one joint that was never neutral. And so if you understand that the elbow is a two-joint joint and it's a hinge that moves up and down all the time and it's carrying, say, a pack of books as a student in their arms, well, that weight distribution causes strain on the joint. And if I'm going into class and I'm having to write tons of term papers, well, then your muscles in your forearm are working overtime. It's like they're running their own marathons. Well, then you start to have pain in the elbow and you eventually get it into the wrist because as the elbow joint goes out of alignment, so you have two bones, the ulnar and the radius, they go all the way to the wrist, and then you have a little ligament here called the volar carpal ligament. And when the elbow goes out, these two bones splay apart. That puts this ligament on a stretch, and the median nerve who goes into the wrist, okay, now gets compressed. And then you start to have pain in the hand. So that's really what it is. And if you go to an osteopath or a chiropractor or a massage therapist who understands stuff like this, they can help you reset things. Now, of course, you want to go possibly to your doc and say, get it ruled out, but you don't need surgery. In 99% of the cases, you don't need anything done unless you've actually had an injury that hurts the bone or the wrist or you break your hand. I mean, that's a whole different ball game.
Mhm.
But just in repetitive strain, you just need to understand what's really taking place within the human body.
Wow. And so we were talking about a couple of things. So in the book, you put in some special programs, just short little ways that people can do an activity on a daily or weekly basis so that they can prevent having the carpal tunnel challenge, um, or they can help with if they've got that overuse. Can you just share a little bit about how you set these protocols up?
So, um, so if we think of touch, sensitivity, one of the things in the hand that happened, I saw this with musicians specifically, was that I gave, I can't remember, three or four little instances, muscle testing being one, but you need somebody to help you. But I wanted them to understand, do you have a grip strength? So of the thing, so if you squeeze your fist together as tight as you can, and give yourself a number 1 to 10. How strong do you think this hand is and this hand is? Okay. And in most people, there's a difference, because if you're right-handed or you're left-handed, which hand do you move the most? Okay. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's going to start. So you write that down. And then the other was sense of touch. So if I just rub my finger pads with my thumb, and then how sensitive am I? Can I really feel my sense of touch? So give yourself a number. And most people, they have to really think about this
Mhm.
because a lot of people just don't have, they're not tuned in to what does that mean? So they have to sit and think about it. But I want a number, okay? And so when we go from that, and then pain's another one. In most places, it's up in the elbow joint. So if I can get my elbow up here, and it's usually right up here attached to the elbow, the brachioradialis is right here. So most people, if they go in here and they start rubbing, they're going to find pain. But they're also, if they take their muscle and they rub around like this, they're going to feel ropes. So the muscle starts to feel ropey. And when it's ropey, that's telling you how many fibers have been broken from overwork. And in massage, you can easily work that out. Really, it takes a bit, but you can do it. So those are the steps I start with. And then, of course, you give yourself a number for pain, 1 to 10, and see where you're at. And then you work through the 12 steps. And that's where we start.
Wow. And then, so that's something too, as you were saying, for kids, they have the same kind of protocol, but a few things that's a little bit different. But parents actually can get those kids started now in how to do hand care so that they can hold the baseball bat and have a great swing, even though it might have been locked up while they were busy playing on their phones, as an example.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot that goes into thinking and educating the parents too, because they
Mhm.
don't usually think they think their kids are indestructible. They all play sports and they go, I had a lot of children as clients and they played multiple sports. These kids never took a break. They think they can go and go and go, and then they end up with injuries like back pain and hand pain and neck pain and everything else. It's because they're overdoing it. And this is where I suggest to parents to really monitor how much your kid's doing and also massage your child. That's what I used to do to my daughter when she was little. And then I did this with my grandsons. I started doing work on them so that they would understand what touch was. Don't do so much with them now, but they do still come.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lovely way to have a relationship too,
Mhm.
where you're sharing knowledge of self-care. And I don't think in our day and time it's like the next generation wants to discover it for themselves.
Right.
Yet we've already discovered it. It's kind of like, why reinvent the wheel? Let me help you with what I have discovered and what I've been able to work with and know, and then you take that knowledge and advance it. Um,
One of the things that happened over COVID was everybody went into isolation. What is the one thing that happened? Nobody touched anybody. I couldn't touch anybody, a lot of people just held up and everybody was just like, you don't hug somebody, you don't massage somebody, and massage schools went out of business. A lot of stuff went out. And then when everything lifted, I was in Arizona And the demand for massage was incredible. I mean, it was they couldn't school enough massage therapists.
Mm.
The schools were lining up, and there was only a few schools left. So you don't have, but the demand for touch was there because everybody felt deprived of that one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really something we still the discoveries of that time and what it's going to mean for this next generation. And I think my grandson being he's 4,
Mm,
he just came in that time frame and doesn't know anything different. But where will his group be, and what will they know about self-care and connecting with other people for self-care?
right.
Um, yeah. All right. So the carpal tunnel pain without surgery book. You can where can you order that from?
You can get it from Amazon.com or you can go to Lulu.com. Lulu is where it's published. So you
Hmm.
can go in there and just put the name of the book in there and you can order directly from them. But
Hmm.
Amazon also has it. But I'm preferring that you buy this one because you'll find all my books up there. This one is up to date and it has a lot more insights into it that the other book that you have doesn't have.
Hmm.
So.
Perfect. Beautiful. So as you're listening to this conversation and thinking about, I'm going to say a couple of things. So hand pain, wrist, elbow, shoulder, you've got that covered in this book. And this pertains to so many people. So we would appreciate if you would pass forward this information and get it out there so that people can they can discover how they can fix it for themselves and how they can be empowered by it, and also then not to think about having to go and follow the line of the medical model for surgery when they haven't already ruled out they could fix it themselves. Because if they fix it themselves, then the medical model doesn't need to be bothered. They've got more important things to be working on, but we have this opportunity to really change how people think about how their hands and their arms are working and functioning.
Interesting, though, you might say, is that when you decide, if say you opt for surgery, you've got 6 weeks out of at least healing, and I will tell you the surgery in most cases doesn't work because usually they're just drilling a hole underneath to open up the nerve canal or cutting the ligament. That has to heal back. And then you have scar tissue, and then you got to work with that. But the what caused it hasn't been dealt with. The alignment and the pressure and the muscles that are overworked have not been dealt with. And I used to see a lot of people after surgery and they thought they were okay, but then the pain came back because they then could not do their job. So you look at career also. So whatever your career is, whether you're an attorney or a policeman or a scientist who's pipetting, in the lab, you're using your hands, or a dentist or even a surgeon. Your hands are gold. This is your career. And if you don't look at the whole picture, to figure out why it's not working and then do something about it without surgery, the time spent doing this type of program saves you hours and hours of pain and downtime. You don't want to be down because then you can't use your hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much, Kate, for sharing more about this book and also for caring enough to rewrite and bring forward to the next generation. I really appreciate that you took the time for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are going to move to introducing another book that's going to be in the next episode. And so stay tuned. And thank you so much for listening in to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. Take care, everyone.